You're listening to Connection Lost, attempting to podcast with BarrowsBOY and Iamkeeferz.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another lovely episode of Connection Lost. Not with Iamkeeferz, though, this week. Joining me this week, co-hosting, taking his absolutely missing place. I don't know where Keeferz is. Who the fuck cares? It's Joey! Hi, Joey.
Greetings, everyone. How are y'all doing tonight?
Joey's back. Those of you who know Joey, if you don't, I don't know what you're doing with your life. But if you know Keith and I, you know Joey because he is the dungeon master of our D&D games. He is also a quite prolific RuneScape streamer in his own right. So Joey, last week we had Joey on the podcast before, so if you're a podcast listener, you know about Joey. We had you on episode 2. We didn't actually talk about you at all. So we're going to start this week off. We're going to kind of skip that like what's up section. I think we can like get away with not, unless you've been doing something really interesting.
I actually have been doing something really interesting. As of yesterday, I started doing old school RuneScape speedruns. I did my first run yesterday. And the category I'm running is all free-to-play quests and an Iron Man account. I did my first run yesterday. It was mainly a lot of routing and note-taking. The run ended up being about 7.5 hours, but that was with a lot of mistakes and a lot of, like I said, routing and notes. Once I get the route optimized and familiar with it, it'll probably be about 2 to 4 hours, but I'm looking forward to finally getting into that. That's about it.
Yeah, so we talked about this like a lot in, I don't remember if you were streaming or I was streaming. It was in the TS, regardless, but we talked about it a lot. I'm super hyped for that to become a thing. I think that's something that like a door that in the RuneScape community hasn't been opened yet.
And I could totally tell, like when I streamed today, there was definitely a lot more buzz and hype surrounding the stream.
Yeah. Welcome, week 2, Connection Lost. We have a name now. It's very exciting. God, sorry about that. Audio is playing on my end. Whoopsies. High production value. Okay, so that's exciting. I'm excited to see you try to. I think you mentioned that you think you can get the times down to like, I don't know, 4 hours.
I think 2 to 4 hours is a reasonable estimate once I get everything optimized and familiar with the run.
And that's the fun part of speedrunning. The RS kind of, I was surprised how quickly that could be done, honestly. So I think that's really exciting. I think once you optimize and once people see that there is this run that they can do, I think a lot more people will be interested. I think you're getting that legwork in, and then eventually we'll see that be maybe more prolific. Hopefully you'll garner some attention for it.
Oh yeah, that's definitely my intention. Like I said, I've already, there's been a lot of interest already expressed by the community, my viewers as well. I know there's a lot of really big streamers. Spoke with Robo Sick Dog earlier after my stream, and he's real into it. And I know Bodie loves speed running and all that, and I would not be surprised if he started, maybe not running it, but at least endorsing it and promoting it. So it's a pretty big thing, and I'm excited to get into it and really kind of revitalize or even just vitalize the speedrun community.
Certainly, you getting exposure to your channel is more than I think from my perspective as someone who like did that struggle to get sub button and all that shit, like you more than deserve it at this point. So let's be real, Joey deserves a sub button on Twitch. It's just a matter of time. So
it's just a matter of time, and the fact that I try to be as consistent as I can as a streamer, but God, I just got so many freaking responsibilities.
Just drop like 6 out of the 20 D&D sessions you have going on.
Right.
Maybe have a little bit extra time. So jumping into you.
Yes.
How did it all begin? We asked the OS Buddy devs last week how they got into RuneScape. So where did it all start, Joey? Brought you here.
It was in 6th grade English class. My buddy Tony made an account on RuneScape, and he actually asked me to train it for him. And I was like, sure, whatever. And so he gave me the password and the login and everything. Got members on the account. I didn't log on to it or do anything with it for like 3 months. Tony ended up moving away. And so I logged onto the account, still had members left on it, so I played on it, and then that was my first RuneScape account.
That's really weird, actually. I think that's very different from your typical. I thought it was like Tony was like, you gotta play this game, but no, Tony was like, hey, help me. And you're like, fuck it, I'll just take over. Yeah. Very similar though to a lot of people's stories, where I think the people who are left playing, out of the people, at least for me, and I've shared this with other people, but like the people who introduced you to the game, chances are don't play anymore. They have long left.
Oh yeah.
And they're kind of missing at this point. So streaming, how'd you get into streaming? When did that start?
Oh God. Well, I used to stream on this account called the Black Cracker. That was my first Twitch account years ago.
We talked about that. We talked about that the first time you were on the podcast. Your Twitch account was the Black Cracker.
And there was a reason why I kind of wanted to ditch that whole moniker, besides the fact that it just just the name lost appeal. But that Twitch account, I got a little over 1,000 followers before I decided to shut it down, and I mainly just did giveaways on that stream, and it was fun, and I enjoyed having the viewers. But then I realized you do so many giveaways to get viewers and follows, but they're just so hollow. They don't actually have to come back, and
shit.
I just wanted to ditch that whole thing. Like, I just felt really kind of I just felt kind of shit for running my stream that way in the beginning, and I just didn't want to be a part of that whole scene that I was anymore. So I kind of just ditched that name, got more into RuneScape, wanted to start streaming that, decided to think of a new name for streaming RuneScape, and here I am.
Yeah, and obviously you're most well known probably for the couple times you've done really, really, I don't know if elaborate is the right word, but really cool charity streaming events, stuff like that. Obviously your skiller is rather impressive. What got you into the whole charity thing? You have a couple well-known ones, but if you want to talk about one specifically, maybe the one that went better.
It was always, well, they both went great. To put that on the record, the second or third, whatever one that had a little bit of controversy surrounding it was, it still went great. It was just that the subjects were very uncomfortable with being on camera. They just, like I said, that's pretty much what it boils down to. They were very uncomfortable with being on camera. They were very appreciative and all that, but mainly it was just, I've always wanted to do things like that, but having the resources and the means and the crowd to actually be able to pull something off like that it's not something everybody has. So when I was in a position to where I was able to do that, and I wanted to start doing things, and I wanted to do things that were unique, not just, stream for 24 hours and collect donations and donate the money. I wanted to do things where you could see the person's reaction, things like that. I've got another stream planned for either fall of this year or spring of next year, where I'm going to be doing probably a month-long event with the concept of it being creating backpacks for homeless.
Right.
I've spoken with a soup kitchen that's near me that around lunchtime gets anywhere from 300 to 500 individuals there. And so what I would do is I would set up my Amazon wish list like I do now, but instead of things for myself and for my hobbies, it would be stuff for the backpacks, as well as a PayPal thing where you could denote what you want the money to be spent on. And each backpack would end up costing around $10 to $15. And ideally, I would like to raise 300 to 500 backpacks, and then we'd go to the soup kitchen, distribute them at lunch, and stream the whole process of actually handing out these bags that everyone had put together. So that's kind of an idea that I've been throwing around and putting a lot of thought into as my next big event. Yeah,
it's a really cool idea. I'm certainly on board, willing to do whatever to involve myself, because I've certainly in my time on Twitch, done the several charity things, but none of them have been like massive in any respect. So anything I can do to help, obviously, I'm here. But yeah, that's obviously something you're known from, and that's not a bad thing to be known by, obviously. Not to toot your own horn, but you're pretty generous.
But not to toot my own horn, but toot.
I'm always giving. I'm just a giving person. But yeah, that's really cool, and obviously, I am happy to finally be involved with stuff with Joey. Obviously, it kind of took sneaking into the D&D campaign, but it's been a pleasure, certainly. So we're gonna leave D&D off. I know all you RuneScape people, D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. Joey is the DM of the campaign that Keith and I are in, and we've talked about it a little bit on the podcast. We are going to be spending a good chunk of time talking D&D later on in the podcast. Never fear, RuneScape will come before it, so just know if you are awaiting and anxious, that will come later, and we will warn you once it comes, because, as always, you RuneScapers like to flee the second something else happens, so we'll be sure to let you know. We're going to start off with, obviously, the Slayer updates have been continuing through August. The Jad Pet has been out for quite a while. I've been grinding away Fire Capes. More importantly, though, Cerberus is right around the corner. It's very exciting. Joey, are you gonna be ready? Are you gonna have 91?
Probably not, man. I'm about to hit 80, or I'm about to hit 88, and I'd have to grind pretty hard. And with the other projects I got going on, I don't know if I'll be able to make it in time. Yeah. Unless I, boost it.
Find Tony, cash in the favor. Have Tony jump on real quick, grind some levels for like a week.
Yeah, I don't think. I think his last name was Ford. I have no idea.
Look him up on Facebook, everybody.
So to find an Antonio Ford, I feel like there's a million of those in the world. So I guess Tony, I'm never going to call in that favor. If anything, I stole from him, so I owe him a favor. So
Yeah. But so I mean, I asked that because you have been now. So we mentioned it earlier. Joey's main account before was his skiller, very impressive skiller, very close to maxing out. Slightly different than some skillers. You chose to get 99 prayer, some don't. It all depends on what you want. Of course, it's your account. Do what you want. It's impressive nonetheless. I think it just adds to the whole skiller thing, honestly. Just stay away from combat.
Adds to the uniqueness. You right-click on this person's 15 as a...
Right, you see level 3, you're like, oh, level 3 skiller. Level 15, 99 prayer. Obviously, 99 prayer, one of the more expensive 99s, so there's... That cape is automatically like, you go and you look at it, you're like, wow, 100 mil, cool.
Right.
But you have, taken a bit of a break and you've transitioned into like, hey, here's a normal account that I've been using. And it was hilarious. A couple weeks ago, I think it might have been like after D&D, I don't even remember, but watching you experience the Kraken for the first time, and it's really funny if you talk to Joey about skilling stuff, he's right there. He's, sharp as a tack, but much like with everything in RuneScape, if you jump out of your element all of a sudden, there's so much to it that it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Equipment, gear. Joey's like gear for Kraken was really sad because he had no money and
super timid to jump into things. What gear do I have? Do I have the exact right setup?
Am I gonna die? All that stuff. It's fantastic. So that's been rather entertaining. But you had great luck on your first Kraken task. You got
and shit luck ever since then. I haven't gotten a unique drop. Yeah, but hey, I can't complain.
Yeah,
my luck so far.
But so that Slayer update's coming out. Obviously, I'm going to be ready for Cerberus. I'm super excited. I have kind of a big announcement. A lot of you know, and fuck it, make it on the podcast. A lot of you know I was gonna go on vacation Saturday. I was probably even before that, maybe Friday. So I would have like 1 day of Cerberus. At cost to me, basically, I've assuming that this is like a kind of big thing for me. Have paid for my split of my vacation, or will pay, because I'm not gonna go. I'm staying home and streaming. So
nice.
That's exciting and terrifying, because if Jagex like suddenly decides that we need another week for Cerberus, like I'm gonna be real pissed. But buckling down and doing that for you guys, and hopefully you guys enjoy the stream that week, because I'm all in.
Yeah, you've been doing you've been doing a lot of prep for that. Like you really have.
Yeah, so that's exciting. I'm as I mentioned, terrified, because if Jagex fucks me and is like, we need another week, I'll be like, I could be not down a bunch of money and also in beautiful, cool New Hampshire waters. So that's the thing.
New Hampshire. I gotta ask, what's the why New Hampshire as a vacation place?
It's every year my family goes to. It's a really long story. It's my dad's old high school classmate. It's what is basically, I would describe as a family camp. So you rent a cottage or like a cabin, and there's a dining hall, and there are set up activities that you can do, but everyone has their own dock on a lake, and you can rent boats and things of that nature. But it's just been something I've done since, I'm pretty sure my entire life. This would be the first ever year that I am not going. So it's very much like pretty emotional for me, right. But all in the name of like trying to make the whole streaming thing happen. That's basically what it comes down to. I've kind of reached a point in streaming where like we need to have a big break soon, or the dream of streaming full time is probably gonna have left with last summer, basically. But this is like my all in. This is my all in move before seeing how things flesh out. So that's the thing. Very terrifying, very scary for me. But I think the right decision. Going all in, I think is I don't know. I think that's the right decision for me. Anyway, all that aside, Cerberus is very exciting. I'm really excited. As I mentioned before, the Jad Pet just came out. Something of, I guess for me, kind of controversial, but Jagex released the Jad Pet drop rates recently, and if you've been hanging out in my stream, you certainly know that we've been talking about the Jad Pet rates pretty consistently. Wondering what they are, like all this stuff. The one thing we did know from the beginning was, hey, guess what? Like the Slayer tasks, you will have a better chance. So we kind of knew that from the beginning, but it was very vague. There was no hardcore numbers. Pretty quickly though, John C released the drop rates: 1 in 200 chance after killing Jad, theoretically the same chance after cashing in a fire cape, and the Slayer task gets you as low as 1 in 100. So I saw that and went, expecting 1 in 500. And went, holy shit, like, not only is that much more common than I expected, but I immediately, like, turned to my computer calculator and was like, all right, hold on, let's see how this compares to other things. So prior to the fight caves being reverted again. You could get a fire cape done fairly easily in 40 minutes. So 40 minutes per fire cape attempt, you get 1 chance. To knock out 200 chances would require you doing 100 fire capes, cashing in a 100. Then you would have done 200 chances at the Jad Pet. So going off of that, that would take, back then when I did the math, that was 66 hours, 67 hours if you round up, to get even with the drop rate. So then we looked at something like Venenatis and the Wildy bosses. Say you can get a Venenatis kill every 2 minutes. And, you know, banking and stuff. We're talking solo, of course. Long story short, pretty much every single other boss pet, and especially the God Wars pets, which if you're efficiently doing with 3-man, you yourself will get 5,000 kills in probably about 500 hours. Every boss pet except for the Chaos Ellie and the Chompy pet, which is not a boss pet, but pet nonetheless, takes longer to break even with the drop rate. Not something I expected. I think a lot of people in chat brought up the point that when you're doing those other bosses, you are certainly profiting, and it is not the main focus. And while I would agree that that is a thing, I do think it definitely takes away from the value of the Jad Pet. I don't know how you feel about that, Joey. But
yeah, I don't know, dude. First off, I don't know how the hell people do these 40-minute Jad runs. So that's my first gripe. I don't see how people do that. I mean, I'm sure it's easy, but goddamn, getting my fire cape was by far the most stressful, my least favorite thing I've ever done.
Well, you have the famous like Joey pick of like, you know, your Jad face, yeah. Which is fantastic. But yeah, there's definitely like we're assuming that it's maxed people who know what they're doing kind of thing. So, you know, that definitely is an element. I'd say now capes are probably like 45 minutes on average. That's definitely true since for those of you wondering what the hell I'm talking about, when the Jad Pet update came out, something went wrong in the fight cave coding so that monster spawns were fixed. The first monster that spawned every wave spawned in the same spot every single time. That ended up shaving off probably 2 to 3 minutes, at least for me. 2 to 3, maybe even as many as 5 minutes per cave attempt. So pretty big deal compared to where fight caves used to be and where they were. Yesterday, or 2 days ago I should say, when we got Boss Slayer, which is a resounding failure, by the way. We'll talk about it in a second. It's not resounding. Anyway, I'm exaggerating. They reverted it back to the old method where things are random. There is still one change, though. You can't log out mid-wave and have the spawns change, which is something that 1-def fire capers, if you did 1-def fire capes, was something that made it possible for you. But not a big deal for your average player. Certainly, Elta Eat a Berry is a little upset about it. He's a streamer who's known for doing 1 prayer fire capes, but nothing other than that. I think generally just fire capes a little bit slower now. So if you got a good time prior to the fix, you're a happy camper because it's probably not going to get touched, ironically enough. But yeah, that's about it for that. Sailing.
I still, to say one last thing about Jad and the 35, 40-minute Jad attempts, it was like 65 minutes for me, and I was using max gear, blowpipe.
You definitely need to be familiar, but you know, making the assumption if you're going off pet hunting, I think that's a fair assumption. Because if you were to go off and like, you know, with that experience or that level of experience PVMing, I guess, and go off and kill Venenatis or something, you would certainly be slower than someone who's, you know, more experienced. So I think the numbers I crunched were pretty fair. Again, God Wars pets, Sarah, if you 3-man Sarah, which is probably the most efficient way of taking her out, you know, feel free to correct me, but if you're sharing kills with 2 other people equally, you need to get 15k total kills before you yourself have 5,000. And again, it's all about breaking even with the drop rate. That's kind of the way I decided to measure it. Breaking even with the drop rate, 500 hours for Sarah. I don't know what it would end up being for other bosses, but did pretty reasonable calculations. You'd be getting a Zilliana kill every 2 minutes, which is pretty reasonable considering the spawn, like the respawn by itself is like over a minute. So you're moving pretty quick. So that's being pretty reserved. Anyway, moving on, sailing. Sailing, briefly, we talked about it during the OS Buddy podcast, but sailing has certainly, to put it lightly, moved forward in the development process. We have a dev blog that literally just goes into how you would train it, which is really interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts on sailing just in general, Joey. I am so
excited for
You're
sailing.
excited. See, that's so good to hear. Everyone else is so cynical, and they're like, I thought it was a joke at first. Like, just be excited.
I know, I am excited. First off, it's new content to a game that I love. And second off, it's a content that's been kind of joked about for as long as I can remember. And to see it actually become like a real thing is just exciting to me. And it's new. It's awesome. They're putting a lot of work into it. It's going to be fun. A new stat to train. Right. It's sailing. It's sailing. Like, what are they going to do for April Fools next year?
There's nothing left.
There's
nothing left.
I guess the worst part of sailing is that they no longer have an awesome April Fool's Day joke. But all around, I am excited, and it's going to be great. And you all should be happy and excited for it too.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot. There's a lot to it. If you read anything about how sailing will be trained, it pretty much is you build a ship, and then you can sell the ship and start building another one, or use your ship, and then you can use that ship to go exploring. And as you navigate and explore, I theoretically gain XP. There's places you can find, like underwater caverns, and there's like random generated events that will bring monsters for you to fight. One of them.
Everything about that sounds great.
It's really cool. I think people who are a little hungry for dungeoneering might find a similar flavor in sailing. It's got a whole lot of potential, and it's a very wide. I don't know. It's a very wide. It's just there's a whole lot to it that could just be really, really interesting. Like the Kraken encounters. Like, you've seen what the Kraken can do in a dank cave. Now it's time to try your luck at sea. You know, that's exciting. That's, having just a fucking Kraken like lurch up on your ship or something. I mean, that's cool. And if you can make something epic but also fun in terms of gameplay.
Have they mentioned anything about like maybe PvP aspects of?
They have. Not in this devlog, but the previous one, or maybe one of the even first ones. They mentioned there would be PvP aspects to sailing. So obviously not required. I think that's something a lot of people were maybe worried about, that like, I don't want a PvP, or like, I don't want to have to skill with a bunch of people. No worries. you won't have to, and you won't have to PvP.
How can you not be excited for ship battles and God.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to it, and that's to put it lightly, I think part of the reason some people are quite nervous about it. Like, how much time will that take for Jagex? I think that's definitely something that some people are probably worried about. And
for everyone that is worried and not excited, I will just have to rule the 7 seas by myself.
Don't worry about it. Joey, listen, Joey likes it, so you should too. That's the fundamentals. Let's be real. So that's very exciting. I don't know. I'm really nervous that it won't pass. I think Jagex is doing all they can. I think, and I've said this before, I think it's going to come down to whether or not couple people in the community, big guys, whether they outwardly endorse. I think that's going to be a big part of it. If SparkMac decides to say sailing, Ninja Turtles on the sea, if that is said, then very possibly we got a chance. But
I hope not.
we'll see, and it could go the other way. He could very easily, any big RuneScape streamer can easily be like, express disinterest, and that's a big effect. So hopefully the big guys will be on the side of sailing. Of course, if you don't like sailing, hopefully they'll be on the other side for you. But who knows? Moving on, the tournament, the Jagex tournament actually succeeded and happened.
Yeah, that was a very interesting event. I thought it was. It was kind of boring at some points. Yes, there's definitely room for improvement. But I think it was a solid concept that really has some merit.
Give them credit for a first time hosting an esports like event. They did okay. I think the main problem was watching 5 maxed geared, maxed level RuneScapers try to kill each other is really fucking boring.
Yeah, it was kind of boring, but I do feel like it has promise. I feel like with a few tweaks, they could really turn it into something actually interesting that people would want to watch.
I'm just impressed. I'm impressed they actually got the tournament up and didn't get DDoSed. So that's a positive.
Yeah, that was fantastic. That was the highlight.
That's a good thing. Oh my God, DDoSers aren't knocking down Jagex-related internet things. We're free, kind of.
It was pretty liberating. I had my fingers crossed so hard. I was praying, like, please, even if it sucks, just let it work. Just let it work.
You just kind of go, oh please, oh my God, it's working. And then I pull it up. It was my birthday at the time, so like I'm at like birthday breakfast with some family at a diner, and I'm like, this is not very exciting.
Yeah.
So kudos to Ronan and Archie for trying. I think they got a lot of criticism for commentary, and again, there's not much to say when it's RNG based.
But about that, I love Chris Archie, and I love everyone on the Jagex team, but he was not a very good commentator. And there was a huge difference in the amount of hype surrounding the fights that were going on, depending on who was commentating. Mm-hmm. Like when Bodie and I think Skill Specs were commentating together, it was actually pretty, engaging, and they were being very communicative and actually explaining what was going on. And it's a lot of RNG and a lot of, just watching max players cash shit at each other. And it's not too exciting to watch, but the commentary does make a huge difference, and even just a little bit of enthusiasm and knowledge can go a long way. And I just don't feel like Ronan and Chris Archie really had that.
Yeah, I think I didn't get a chance to see Bodie's commentating with Jay, but I would imagine that when you couple those two together, knowing their relationship, you're certainly going to come away with a good mesh, because they know each other. They kind of feel, without being creepy, they felt each other out talking before, so they know when to talk to each other, and they have a good standing conversational relationship already, and having streamed together, are used to so to say performing together. So it's something that I think if you were to give Ronan and Archie like some practice and some experience, maybe they'd get better. But I definitely am. I'll reiterate, I think the bigger problem was content. So in the future, perhaps making it so everybody's one def, figure out a way to remove armor or something, because
there's some ways I was thinking, like there could be a pure tournament that might spice things up. And another thing that would really make it a lot more interesting is that they found a way to actually show their inventory and the clicks they are doing while playing. That might make it more interesting. There's definitely some room for improvement, but again, I think it's a viable concept. And I also think that RS3 related tournaments like that could also be really,
I think RS3 would do a lot better.
Oh yeah.
Just because of ability-based combat, I think that's a much more entertaining thing. So I would love to see that. I would be interested in watching, hardcore old schooler here. I would enjoy watching an RS3 tournament. So, I don't know. That's it's something to think about for Jagex. It certainly created a lot of buzz, which for them is always a good thing.
Even they tested the waters, and it seemed to hold up. So
even if the initial buzz was, Jagex is being held hostage by DDoSers. But buzz is buzz. So it worked out. It worked out okay for them. I don't know. I'd like to, again, just to reiterate, I would like to see it in the future, but only if Jagex can really nail down, I think, content. I think content is most important. Figure out a way to make that more exciting. It did become just a D-Spear fest, which, I don't know. That's the way to do it, but it got really boring to see. Oh, the D-Spears, they hit through the D-Spears this time, so somebody's dead. Oh, they didn't hit through the D-Spears this time. He lived. And, Archie and Ronan just saying he tanked through it. He did not tank through it. It's kind of I did, to give them credit, the map analysis they provided was really interesting. But I think in the future, maybe even let's talk about that. In the future, what they could do specifically to make it better. Adding more people. 5v5, as interesting as that is, I would love to see bigger battles. I've always enjoyed watching videos of pure clans and clan wars in those big arenas, taking each other on, and the kind of, it's much more fast-paced, because even though there are more people, someone gets attacked and they're probably going to die within a couple seconds just because they get out damaged. So something like that I would definitely be more interested in. What do you think in terms of numbers, Joey?
Honestly, Castle Wars sounds pretty dope to me. Like I would legit watch that. That would be cool.
If you've ever managed to catch some of the guys who, we're talking no Castle Wars, people who you think Castle Wars, you think, yeah, I'm good at Castle Wars. You grab the flag, you run out, you wear stuff. If you have not seen videos of people who know what the fuck they're doing, the coordination, the speed at which they're completing actions to get things done, it's incredible to watch. It's kind of whoa, as whoa as it can get from watching someone click. Right. You're kind of wow, he put the barricade there, immediately burned it. there's mechanics you probably didn't know about, and there's a level of skill that is rather surprising. So I don't know if Old School has the community for it. This game definitely used to.
Hosted the tournament, had one of the events be Castle Wars, then if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
If you host it, they will play. And it also is a game that has a defined, you win when you return the flag. It is a standard capture the flag type game. So it's also easier to narrate, easier for people to understand kind of what's going on. Like, oh, they have the fucking flag. They're very close.
Yeah, let's go to the guy with the fucking flag, right now.
So I feel like that has a lot of promise, and it could be pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's a lot more, I'd say, skill-based than something like D-Spear and RNG Take the Wheel. So something I would definitely, I don't know. Check out those videos. Look them up. The name that comes to mind is, I think, BarrowsBOY. I don't know if that's right. But if you can catch Castle Wars montage videos, yes, they exist. They're really actually rather exciting. It's kind of cool, surprisingly. All right, so we're gonna jump into a little D&D. Warning, D&D haters, Dungeons and Dragons. I'm so into it right now. I couldn't be more into it with Critical Role and all this stuff. But I had a couple. First off, and a thing I noticed. We'll get to last week's session, but something I mentioned to you the other day, which I think podcast listeners would be certainly interested in reading. I was looking through the monster manual, and D&D has this big book. You can get like PDFs online of just every single creature that exists in this universe, theoretically. And just flipping through the things that I found that are not only like RuneScape has adapted versions or things of that nature, I was quite surprised. Someone in my chat mentioned that, and I don't know how true it is, but Andrew Gower and the original creators were big D&D fans. I don't know how accurate that is, but jellies are literally just straight out of the D&D monster manual. I mean, it's like shot for shot the things inside them and like the shape. It was rather, I was like, whoa, that's like exactly that. So it's kind of cool. You get a real perspective on how long D&D has been around and how influential, I guess you could say.
If you guys started working together better, you might be able to fight some of those things.
If only. But yeah, jumping into last week's session. Actually, we could cover like a couple weeks of sessions. So we've been in Gregoria, and if you haven't caught the D&D streams, the more people I encourage and end up checking them out, the more that enjoy them. We play D&D every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Keef's channel. That's twitch.tv/Iamkeeferz. Link is in the description wherever you're listening. I promise, unless you're with the live audience right now. But everyone who I've sent and has been engaging about wanting to check it out has enjoyed it. So please do me a solid. At least check it out once. If it's not your cup of tea, I totally understand. But I do feel like pushing this on a lot of you because a lot of you are really enjoying them and are now making plans to be there every night. So really cool. Joey, of course, got me into Critical Role, which is a terrible, terrible addiction now, and my Thursday nights are now completely dominated. So that's a thing. But going back to last session, we were in the dwarven city of Gregoria. Obviously, the world is completely designed by Joey, and that's all exciting, of course. But Joey, talk us through what was talk us through from your perspective what happened 2 weeks ago, back when Keith blew himself up.
Right. So basically, they were trying to stop this dwarven radicalist group that was kind of seating themselves in the city of Gregoria after the dwarven pass to the north was destroyed by their god Vergadane, and it caused a max exodus to the south. It's caused a kind of
divine intervention, people. Come on.
It was like a criminal sort of enterprise started to sprout up in this city. And it actually turns out that one of the right-hand dwarves to the mayor of the city was involved heavily in this whole escapade. And their conquest, their crusade, was to turn Gregoria back into a pure dwarven utopia. So any race that was not dwarven was exiled, ideally, from the city. So they were going to investigate it. Argus, BarrowsBOY's Andrew's character, decided to sneak around like a good
like a good sneaky character does. You
yes.
know, sneaky.
The rest of them decide, hey, let's just walk down the street, see what happens, duck into an alleyway, climb some buildings.
Yeah, and to be fair, I thought that was a great idea until I realized we're actually this is not like a deserted area. This is there's people.
There are people, and they got caught. Queefy got kidnapped, transferred to a different cell in the middle of the night.
I shot a guy in the back twice, which, damn it, I want to say hi to him so desperately.
Maybe one day you will.
I so badly, like, the iconic moment for me during that session was I'm lurking in the shadows as, like, Keith's character is being carried off into Dwarven Radicalist prison, theoretically, and Ben's character, who is fantastic, by the way, Oof is fucking great. He's just stupid, half-orc giant, brutalize and just, face smash into everything. But he's, like, surrounded by a bunch of people, and I just start from the shadows shooting arrows into this one motherfucker who Joey roleplays so well. It's just like, there's a motherfucker shooting arrows at me.
There's a motherfucker shooting arrows at me from the alleyway.
What the fuck is going on? It was just
he is from over there. Arrows coming from that direction. Hit back this way.
It was fucking fantastic. And hopefully I get a chance to say hello at some point, because I did just shoot this, like, one guy twice, which was fucking fantastic. But yeah, so Keith gets captured, and from your perspective, Joey, I don't know how much you want to go into it. Obviously, there is a...
Yeah, no, I'll explain what I can, but he was transported to a different cell in the middle of the night, a different one than what they saw him get carried into initially. And in the cell was a very strong, sulfur-like smell, not confirmed or unconfirmed that it was sulfur or not, but very sulfurous. It smelled a lot like explosives of some sort. And so there was somebody that every 4 to 6 hours or so would bring down Queefy Varg a small pan of pretty dirty water. Queefy Varg did not like this. He eventually decided to use his dragon breath when the guard came down.
He was bound and gagged after using his... Is thaumaturgy a cantrip?
I think it's it is a cantrip, maybe first level. I can't quite remember.
So it's a cantrip, which is in D&D something you can just kind of use all the time. There's no limit to it, but it makes him really loud, and he he basically kept activating it and shouting at the entire dwarven group of people, and he was like...
And initially, he had all his items. Like, they didn't take his bag or his weapons or anything. They just threw him in a jail cell. When he started, like, screaming, they first gagged him, and then he started screaming again, and they started, muffled yelling. The guards didn't like that, and that's when they took all their stuff, and it made it so that he could not talk. But yeah, he blew himself up.
The next time somebody comes down here, let me use my dragon ability and fire breath, and then... Of course, the ground is covered in what is essentially gunpowder.
And then, moving forward from there, of course, Queefy Varg's dead, disintegrated, no chance of resurrection. So Keith creates a new character, a rogue, a tiefling rogue. And
for those of you who don't know, a tiefling is... can you give a little brief description?
Yeah,
Joey,
they have horns. They're descended from demons. They're usually viewed as very evil creatures, not looked upon very fondly. And a rogue is someone who's very stealthy, very sneaky, likes to steal things.
Right, and certainly not the most common thing you'd see on your average
very
city
rare.
street.
Yeah. So I could just see how excited Keith was to play this character. He's like, I'm making a rogue. I'm going to be able to steal stuff. So the first thing he does on the first night, sneaks out at 1 a.m, starts robbing very big stores and taking gold, and gets caught. They see him leave. They see his tail slink out of the window. First tiefling that's been seen in the city in years. He actually lives there. They know him. He was caught stealing stuff earlier, so he gets caught. They raid the inn that he was staying at. They take him to court with Aragus and Oof and the rest of them. Aragus and Oof, they tell the truth. Aragus gets off.
I was so nervous. God, Joey, you have no idea.
The only involvement Aragus had was he took a 300 and some odd gold bribe.
Yeah,
which
like Keith like comes back from robbing in the middle of the night, and the first person he encounters, this is worth mentioning, is our paladin character, our half-orc paladin, played by John Haas. And paladins have this oath thing where they cannot tell a lie, basically. So the first thing he does is encounter the Goody Two-Shoes character and says, I just went out stealing things. Here, take this and help me hide it. And John's like, I'm not okay with this. My character, who fundamentally chaotic good, I'm just kind of like, whatever it takes for, the good of the party and the good of just generally. So having, and he's got a thing for money and, like, making use of what's available. So Keith gives me half of the money, and Argus is just like, yeah, man, cool. And I was kind of like, this is sweet. And then like that immediately when like the guards show up and like catch us with like more money than we might have possibly should have, and like we get put in jail cells for the night and we're on trial. Argus, like I knew at this point I was freaking out because I was worried for my character. Argus was he was not pleased. He was like, on the outside he was just like, I am confident it'll be fine. Inside, sheer panic.
It's got to be one of my favorite scenes that's played out in that D&D group is the whole court scene. Because, man, it was great. You told the truth. You were fine. You got off.
Yeah, I'm just like, I go up there. Listen, here's what happened. He gave me some money. And at this point, again, Paladin's word. Like, John is there kind of as a witness. People know Paladins don't lie. So they're using him as basically a lie detector test. And he's told the courtroom what happened. This dude stole stuff, came to us with money. I come clean. I'm like, I'm sorry. I even offered my services to the city. I was like, maybe we can bargain. I'd love to know, because that didn't end up being brought up at all. So anyway, continue describing what happened. I won't.
Yeah, so this whole court scene, one of my favorite scenes that's played out so far in that D&D group, because it was so great. Smork, I could see the look of despair and just discontent in John's face, who plays Smork. You could just see this look of just dread in his face as he just had to throw Kiefling under the bus and be like, yeah, he told me he stole it. Yes, like all this stuff you're saying is true. And
John hating that he's selling out his team, but like he has to basically.
And the judge is like, me of course is like, well, is this true, Kiefling? Is this the true recanting of what happened the previous evening? And every single time Kiefling's like, no,
he's like, nah, I didn't do it.
Continues to lie to the judge. Like they have so much evidence against him. And
this is after both Ben and I have testified, and Ben's testimony was, it's just like not really implicating. Mine was definitely like, this motherfucker gave me money he stole. So like he's up against the wall and just keeps lying.
That was the craziest part. I know Keith was so excited to play his character, but if you're going to be that kind of character, you can steal from criminals and people who deserve it.
Probably
you can't just go into shops and rob like the big weapon shop in the city.
To be fair, he rolled fucking like he was a god. He walked up to that shop and like just everything went
one
perfectly.
bad roll near the end, which is what caused him to see him slinking out of the window when the guy caught him.
Like the one, I guess it was like a dex throw and the one perception check, and he didn't hear the footsteps coming. Just 2 rolls that had probably, if had gone like slightly better, he would have known. But
and it was tragic, and then we ended the session with this whole encounter with Elazar.
He gets thrown in jail for 10 years, by the way, is the sentence. So like, I just made this new character because my old one died. I basically killed myself, and now I'm excited to play D&D a new way. Oh, here's a 10-year prison sentence.
And so, he gets a 10-year prison sentence, and while he's in jail, he has a conversation with the BBEG, the big bad evil guy, Elazar.
The main antagonist.
He manifests himself in flames and different heat sources, and so he spoke to Kiefling through a lamp that was on the wall and offered him a deal. Kiefling took the deal.
Get me out of here, basically.
Yeah, it was like, I'll get you out of here, is what Elazar said. Like, I'll get you out of here. And he did. But he banished him to like this black void with these millions of different flickering lights, and when you touched one of the flickering lights, it represented a different heat source or light source that exists in the world, and he could manifest himself the same way Elazar did and speak to them, but only his head through these flames. And then Elazar swapped into his body. So that's where we left off.
Fuck. And then, of course, like there was this little bit with Pearl that I still haven't rewatched it, and I keep meaning to. But I haven't. He seemed really upset with you as Elazar because he like got an impression that you fucked him over as well.
It's so great because he doesn't even know. Like nobody really knows what happened. For him, he spoke with Elazar. Elazar promised to rid him of the curse.
Right. No more demon. Paul's character was basically there was a demon in him, and he was trying to kill a bunch of people in a place. So when the main he'd run off. Long story, he'd run off from like the rest of the group. So he was just trying to Like, I don't know. I don't know.
He escaped from this temple north of the Dwarven Pass, about a little over 100 miles north of Gregoria, and he decides it's a good idea to just run to the south towards Gregoria, which is 100 miles on foot as a tiny little halfling wizard.
As a halfling.
It's going to take a while. For like 4 weeks now, he has not had anything to do other
if
than...
the hobbits made it to Mount Doom, I can do it too. Just goes, okay.
So his decisions have led him to a not very exciting few D&D sessions, but I think that'll change here soon with that.
And then he's like, what, the Pegasus isn't here already? Come on.
It's like, it's been like 12 hours. We're 60 miles away. But yeah, that'll be an interesting development. Currently, the curse is lifted from Paul, and but nothing seems to be different with him.
What was it that he was? I don't know if you can tell me this, but what was he so upset about? Because he seemed to. He gleamed that he, like, basically Paul himself seemed to be surprised and shocked that, like, for some reason you had, as Elazar, tricked him.
I think the reason that he was upset, looking at it from his point of view, was we wouldn't know this in character, of course, but out of character, when Elazar tricked Kiefling with his promise.
Right.
I feel like Pearl kind of thinks that Elazar tricked
Paul's
him
just like,
as well.
fuck, what scum did you do to me, basically?
So far, nothing seems to really be amiss with Pearl, but, who knows what could happen.
I can't wait to fucking start yelling at Pearl the second that he shows up again. I'm fucking excited for that. Like, sign me up for more sarcastic yelling at other people. That is just great. I'd love to go talk to Kogan again. That was just a lot of fun. But what did you think? All right, so we'll get into. I have some DMing questions. In a bit. But in terms of Kiefling's introduction, the way that John chose to bring him in, was that a little too forced for you? Because I know on my end, I was kind of like, really? Like, I know it's Keef and he has to be. Obviously he's like gonna metagaming, like he's gonna join us unless he like tries to murder one of us all of a sudden. Like we're probably gonna be bringing him along because that's just how this works. But you kind of just like brought him in for seemingly no reason.
To me, it makes sense because he's kind of sought them out, and Smork, being the generous, trusting paladin he is, of course, is going to give him a chance. At that point, Kiefling had told him, I'm here to help. I'm strong. I got these skills. I can help. Just give me a chance. And Smork was like, all right, give you a chance. I'll vouch for you. And I
Come
don't
to
think
the fucking the party. Sure.
He didn't know that he was going to do what he did. But yeah, I think that was that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I was definitely looking forward to going into the sewers and ridding whatever. I can only imagine what kind of bullshit you would have had planned for us if we decided to go into the sewers and eradicate the basilisk problem. Maybe
it is just all this stuff that happened, man. You guys were getting so set up. You had to leave within, I think, 2 days. I had to check.
We're still on that day, yeah. So, like, by the end of we had 2 days to go to the Elven City, or like get back to the temple or the castle.
Well, you're going to be leaving in 2 days with them.
So we're on that day, but that morning started off with everybody's on trial.
So hopefully things go in your guys' favor, and you don't.
I got to shop, which was exciting.
Oh yeah, you've been talking about how you wanted to actually buy,
Yeah, I want I don't know what it is, but clearly I have a thing for like upgrading gear in every type of game I play. So like.
Oh, dude, everyone should. I mean, at this point.
I got myself some bracers of something and I get +2 damage on my longbow and any, I guess, ranged proficient weapons I'm in. I think that's the deal. I'd have to look into it again, but I also need to pick up. I completely forgot. I want to pick up some potentially like glass vials, just in case there's something we can, knowing we're going down into the sewers, being able to like collect basilisk blood into a vial, probably a useful thing. Just like in general, maybe a few like pouches and things of that nature. But I also need, because I actually have a spell now that I might want to use. I have Pass Without a Trace, which I can only imagine would have been awesome if Keith was with us. But I need some ingredients to like actually do that.
That's a fantastic spell, by the way. Pass Without a Trace.
Yeah, +10. I see Keyleth using it, and Laura. I think Laura has it. Vex. Critical Role is a thing. It's a D&D campaign that's also streamed on Twitch. But they use it all the time, and it's fucking godlike. Even Ashley's character, help. Joey, help me. Ashley's character. Tiny gnome cleric.
Pike.
Pike, thank you. Even Pike can stealth through paths without a trace. So like, it's good times. But I need like some, and you will have to explain how that works to me, by the way. Like how, because I think Keith has a lot of spells, or did have a lot of spells that worked based off of, you'd actually have to have physical things, and he had like a pouch or something. So
the way it works, you don't have the spellcasting focus as a ranger, but if you have a spellcasting focus as clerics, sorcerers, wizards, I think one other class has them, and you can cast spells through that. And if it has a material component, you don't need it because of your spellcasting focus.
Interesting. So in terms of like, I imagine we don't want to keep it too complicated, but like if I go to a shop and say I want a bunch of, I think what I need is like burnt leaves of like spruce or something like that. Do I just buy a bunch and then we assume that I have a bunch until later, or are we gonna like?
I'd have to look into what the spell actually says. Does it say it's consumed after use?
That's a really good question.
If it doesn't explicitly say it's consumed after use, it's not. So you might just need one.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm looking that up because now I'm curious. Talk about. So I've been looking into. As I said, I was like going through the monster manual quite a bit. And noticed that while monsters have this default HP that's listed, there's also, and those of you wondering, it's really cool to look into because just as every character and class and race can upgrade themselves and have certain spells that they can choose and all that stuff, every monster has this big, basically their own character sheet of descriptions, how they act, how they behave. They all have chaotic, evil good, like evil neutral, evil, chaotic, all that stuff, chaotic evil. They all have their alignments and shit like that. But they also all have very specific move abilities and how much damage their certain attacks do.
The more powerful ones have special abilities and
right. It's really, it's really complex. But can you talk a little bit about, because I saw that the hit points thing is there's a die value afterwards. It says something like 5d10 plus something. Is that their hit dice?
Yeah, that's their hit dice,
okay.
Yes. So the hit points it gives you is just the average hit points. The hit die tells you what that is. Because a lot of cases, the monsters have buffed HP or something like that. But yeah, if you want to just roll manually for the hit points, you can do that and add a few extra hit die to make the monster a little bit tougher. Especially if you're playing with a larger party,
right.
You sometimes got to just up the HP, otherwise you're going to kill it in one hit, and then it's not a challenging fight. So,
and obviously everything written down in those descriptions is like, it's yours to play with. It's your world as the DM. So, a good example was I was rewatching the Critical Role with the Cloaker, and there's a lot about how a Cloaker would never take on a large party kind of thing. But obviously Mercer took his artistic license and made that a more significant fight. Stuff like that you can obviously.
Yeah, homebrewing things is great. Like that. I don't know if you were in that fight, the Lyrexiosaurus.
Yeah, and I stumbled upon all of the dinosaur section of the monster manual, and like everything that you used is in there.
Yeah.
So obviously you play around with it, suit it for whatever party is coming up against stuff.
It's fun to design monsters and all that. Yeah. It's real fun.
Yeah, and I imagine you have a pretty good idea of our capabilities and like however many people we have. So choosing a monster that can fit, not letting us encounter a fucking dragon.
I have a pretty good idea of what my groups are capable of handling, and I play to your guys' strengths, but I also play on your weaknesses and make sure that the fight's challenging, but not just like a death sentence.
Yeah.
But also not just breeze right through it.
I imagine. I mean, that's another thing. If I was designing a fight, I definitely wouldn't want to make it so that the party going in, I wouldn't want to stack it, say, 50-50. Like, literally 50-50, you might succeed or lose. But it's got to be challenging enough so that if whoever's fighting against it, if your rolls are just terrible, I mean, you got to have consequences. If not, like, I can't imagine full party wipes are, certainly Matt Mercer doesn't have a full party wipe, a possibility of that. I'm sure he's probably, maybe if rolls were impossibly bad.
I feel like contractually, Like
it'd be terrible if everybody's dead, so
that wouldn't happen. They're such a tight knit team with a lot of synergy. Yeah. They got so many healing spells, potions, teleportation spells.
Right.
They're not gonna.
It'd be pretty hard for their whole party to get wiped. Let's put it that way.
Oh, the last Critical Role episode, it was very close to having a death. That was very, very close.
Yes, it was. Critical Role, we've mentioned it a couple times, is a D&D session DM'd by Matt Mercer. He's a voice actor, and it stars a bunch of other voice actors. It's hosted on the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel every week, and it's also up on their YouTube channel. They upload past episodes and stuff. I'm addicted. If you like our D&D sessions, you'll like theirs even more, I promise.
If you've never watched D&D, watch Critical Role. It is fantastic. Even if you don't like Dungeons & Dragons, it is just one of the most entertaining shows you could possibly watch. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is fantastic, and it can certainly help you get into D&D. I've picked up, I think that last session, just because of all the D&D I had watched through Critical Role, I was infinitely more equipped. I just kind of had a swagger about me, I think, just a little bit. Especially, can we rewind real quick? The very beginning of our last session, it's me, Oof, and like a couple dwarven guys, and we rush in, and Marissa's father's just like slow thread,
right?
And I just godlike rolls, just kill the dwarven shadow, or capture the dwarven shadow.
Nat 20, you step in the doorway and
that was the shit. What? I'm really hoping you'll tell me this, but what did I need to roll for that?
To be able to stop them, like a 17 or 18 or higher.
Yeah.
Forget what I had the DC set on.
Very narrow margin of me succeeding there, and I don't think I realized it until afterwards. But
you should realize this: you redeemed yourself and your group for the entire city.
Oh yeah, fuck you, Basan. Every time someone mentioned that and you did this on purpose, totally. Every time an NPC showed up, you'd be like, yeah, the expectation, they kind of failed, but then, and I was like, this fucking Basan is telling everybody that we fucked up the first time.
The group does not appear to work very well together. And
it's god damn it, Basan, you fucking bitch.
And he was right at the time, but you managed to stop.
Single-handedly. I don't mean to toot the horn, but Oof is tired and lagging behind, and I just walk in the room, stop him, shoot him, entangling strike. I was on point.
Hey, you did great.
Which is why when I was worried that when the feast came around, and I'll explain, you might have been wondering why I went up to Basan and was like, hey, pay me and I'll spread it amongst the group. I was afraid that for whatever reason, and Aragus would not have been being the greedy son of a bitch that he appears to be at this point. That's kind of developed. Didn't want Smork to be getting a full split of anything, because he fucking didn't do shit.
Right. That's why the gold was distributed how it was. Right, not everybody did the same.
Right. Which I was he was okay with. He was like, whatever. I can go buy something fancy. it's fine. But yeah, hopefully we can. Hopefully this next week. I don't know what you might have had planned for the sewers. We still have a full day ahead of us. I don't know what time it is technically where we left off, but I would guess
we'll see what happens.
Early afternoon, if anything. We at the very least have to head into the sewers and unpetrify Holly.
Yes.
And so hopefully Holly will be with us next week, and we'll have double the dose of asshole truth teller.
But the one thing that I want to make sure I discuss with John about being a paladin is you aren't necessarily you don't always have to tell the truth. You don't always have to tell on your friends. In that situation, it was Kiefling stealing from innocent people. Then there's no way that's.
It's got to be. He's lawful good, right?
Yeah. So. But if Kiefling had been stealing from an evil crime syndicate or a bunch of pedophiles or something, Smork as a paladin could have not said anything about that and been okay with it, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, but certainly I definitely wasn't surprised, because when they were doing that gambling thing, and this was back when Queefy Varg was still with us, we were on the beach, and I slightly aimed the arrow closer to him, and fucking John is the only person who rolls and noticed, and he goes, hey, wait. It's son of a bitch, the fucking paladin. Of course. But yeah, I imagine that'll come into play again, but it's going to be interesting to have two of them, because now, even more so, obviously they will theoretically bond pretty well.
Yeah.
You would think.
I think they'll get along fine.
But it would have been this really interesting, like, I mean, if we get the fucking party together, but like Rogue, who has like a fucking stealing, like basically kleptomania, and like me, who's like, okay with stealing as long as it's like beneficial and not like you're not like fucking punching a homeless man in the mouth and taking his coin purse. So it would have been, and especially Pearl, who like is a fucking cunning little twat, right. Running around and shit. So it would have been I think it would have been really cool, and it will be really cool if, I don't know how Keith plans on getting to us now that he's in a fucking black void.
I don't know either. And I feel bad, but at the same time I don't.
You shouldn't, because he was an idiot. Okay, yeah. Let's rewind to the court case. If he tells the truth, if he comes clean, can you at this point disclose what would have gone? I mean, like, what would the ruling have been in that circumstance?
He would have gotten a slap on the wrist. And probably his gold, taken from him.
Oh my god!
But the fact that he lied over and over and over with so much evidence against him just did not stack in his favor.
Nobody tell Keith. Don't tell him. And okay, so I obviously offered, to like clear the sewers out for free. I don't know what the payment was or anything, but that was obviously like Argus was just like grasping at straws, like please anything at this point. Would you have probably taken advantage of that?
I feel like the city would have liked that,
yeah. Yeah. Wow. Off scot-free, basically. That's upsetting. But seriously, I mean, like, he like, everything about that scenario. He was obviously guilty.
Yeah.
And he, like, tried to, like, game the system somehow. He was like, there isn't 100% proof, so...
And I told him beforehand, too. I was like, I know you're making this character. I know you're excited to steal, but you're not invincible. Like, this is a real world with real world consequences.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So that's that hurts. That hurts. often some sort of black void.
I really don't want to have any more character deaths. I really, really, really don't.
Yeah. You I mean, it's beneficial to all of us, really. You don't have to go through the pain of introducing someone new, and obviously that's work, but mainly just having everybody together and being able to move forward with this. I mean, you've got a story that's basically waiting to be told, and it's like everyone.
It's the stories. I'm just gonna say the story's happening no matter what. Like
but
there's
like
stuff in the background that's happening.
You can't help but be like you've written. I don't know how much ahead you have planned, but I imagine it's very much like I really want to do this thing and I'm really excited to do it, but these motherfuckers can't move forward.
Yeah, like last week we didn't get to like any of the scenes I had prepared or anything like that.
Oh my god. There were scenes prepared?
Oh yeah, I have scenes prepared every week, man. But
oh man. Man.
Maybe eventually there will be more synergy and you guys will...
We'll get there. Maybe. Oh Jesus. I'm just excited to play every week. I think that's good. I'm quite happy that I'm enjoying it so much, and I'm ever thankful that I was invited. So that's
Oh yeah, dude, it's great to have you aboard.
That's a thing. But we could just we could move on and
all right,
actually get things going. Like let's just move to the main quest line. Fine.
And you were on a good track too, and then got.
We were so close. We were so close. It was like moments away from moving on with our lives, and I'm gonna go steal from a weapon shop.
To get another stone that you needed.
Fuck.
Like, man.
Yeah. But it'll happen eventually, maybe.
Fingers crossed.
I don't know.
It's kind of great. Like the difference between your guys' group and the group that I'll be DMing for tonight is so crazily different. They work together beautifully.
Yeah.
They accomplish so many great things. Their name is being spread throughout the lands.
Oh, good.
Their, heroic deeds.
Yeah, sure.
And they handle shit so great. They know how to handle their shit. It's great. They work together fantastically. And then
must be nice.
They are on like a track. They have a very specific route they're going. Right. Like they have we're doing this. Like this is our main goal.
The dream.
They actually just had a pretty big boss fight that bought them a couple months of free time.
Oh shit!
They can do what they want.
That's exciting. What was the said boss?
It was this fight with the Vior Fire Clan. Which
so
they
not like a stereotypical like giant monster thing, but like a kind of like a
And they had heard a lot about the Vior Fire Clan to the north, burning down this very large section of the forest. And so they go to the north. They discover this group of this village called the Burst Rock Village. It was destroyed, of course. And the Burst Rock gnomes were known for their special, very unique method of mining, which was burst mining, and using arcane blasts of energy to mine out mountains and then return to minerals and sell those. They were wiped out, and the Vior Fire Clan, they'd heard this name over and over and over, and then it turns out that Vior was the middle name of one of the gnomes that was possessed. And used in the Vior Fire Clan, and it was kind of used to like tarnish their name, controlled by their evil bad guy, Wizard Driznek, who had a pretty epic fight in the back room with another really epic Grand Wizard, and then they dimension door to teleport it out somewhere, some crazy shit. They had to fight a Chimera and a bunch of wizards, casters, and a bunch of Hellbats. In this, like, I designed this level that had, elevation, and I was using soup cans and boxes to, like, elevate these.
That's awesome. You have not yet escalated to Matt Mercer levels of, like, invisible see-through platformy things.
Not quite yet. I had to use, boxes and stuff. It looked real cool. I tweeted about it a while back to Mercer and them. It was pretty awesome. It was a great fight. A few of them were very close to dying, but they managed to pull through and kind of pushed Driznek back and bought themselves some time.
That's hype. I can't wait till we get to that level of, like, probably like 4 weeks. It'll take us like that we kind of know we're working towards. I imagine they'll get like 1 week will happen, and it'll kind of like dawn on me that like, we're building up to something like real fucking cool.
Yeah, yeah, that is because they were building up to that fight for a while. Yeah. It was quite a big build up, and then they finally got there and took them down. It was glorious.
Yeah.
It was glorious.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, and hopefully in my like my ideal fight, like just some. I know we're so not ready for anything that's cool yet, but but like the typical like a dragon or like another large thing, just the like standard fare for giant exciting D&D monster.
Right, and that's stuff that I'm very much looking forward to doing with you guys at some point, but right now I don't think you guys can handle it, just to be honest.
No. Not only like even if we were of level, there's no way we could.
Let's just say
we're all idiots.
Next encounter might be with like a group of goblins or something.
Yeah. Let us ease into it, man. Just like let's one hit some goblins real quick.
Yeah. You guys are gonna be sent on like the petty like busy work missions, like a couple goblins to the south, some kobolds.
You recovered 30 gold. Like yay!
You split 30 gold amongst the party.
But yeah, man, that's D&D. If you haven't checked out D&D, again, I implore you. Every Tuesday night on Keef's channel. That's twitch.tv/Iamkeeferz. It's a lot of fun, and you will certainly get into it. If you've been enjoying us talk about it, you'll certainly actually like it happening.
And I don't want to say too much about this, but I have been chatting with a certain Orion Macabre recently, and not just God. And it has been beyond the realm of just a favorite on one of my tweets. I've actually sent him a message, and we've been kind of I don't want to say chatting back and forth, but we have been communicating. We're in communication. I'm hoping to get something worked out with him, because he had talked about on the stream how he wants to do D&D things on it, and I was like, dude, I'm fucking there.
Like,
I'm there.
I'll do it. Fuck it, I'll drop everything.
You want somebody to DM for you? I'm your man. You
want sign me up as well. Like,
you want me to coordinate, do anything? I will be your bitch. Just tell me what to do. I want to be involved in whatever way, and I was like, I'll send you my resume, video samples, whatever, man. Let's get this shit.
For those of you who like don't know what the fuck just was talked about, the show we talked about earlier, Critical Role, the D&D campaign with voice actors, Orion Akaba he plays a character, a Dragonborn character named Tiberius Stormwind. It's definitely a fan favorite, certainly one of my favorite characters. He's this kind of bubbly, very powerful, but very bubbly and kind of just not stupid, but like just...
His character has low wisdom. He has 4 wisdom on his character, which means he does not do too well in social situations.
He's not the most, like... I say perceptive out of context of D&D, but like he's not the most just like... So he's not socially adept, let's put it that way. So he's very just like pure pure him. There's nothing restrained in Tiberius. It's just kind of all face value. You get what you get, kind of thing.
And the way he role plays his character too, it's so great to see the chat on Critical Role. It's like, oh, Orion's getting salty. Orion's pissed off, and it's like, no, that's Tiberius. Orion's having a great time, dude. Tiberius is pissed, and he role plays his character fantastically.
Yeah. So certainly it's cool. Joey's trying to get in touch and see if he is the only cast member, at least I think at this point, who's doing anything related, like anything on Twitch at all. Yeah. So,
and dude, fingers crossed for that. That would be such a huge deal.
Slip me in there. Room for people. So, like,
no, man. Like,
that's so cool.
I'm getting awesome. Like a schoolgirl, man. I
know the feel. Totally off topic, but like that's not a thing that has changed at all. Like talking to like even though like both of us like we have relative like decent exposure on Twitch, when you meet someone who like you have watched and like idolized, if you will,
and
it's still like, oh my god, you still get like the shell shock kind of starstruck kind of thing going on.
Oh yeah, definitely, dude. To do collaborative work with Orion would be like a dream come true, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have we have a couple questions from you lovely viewers at home. If you would like to ask us a question to be featured on the podcast in the future, as always, #ConnectionLostPodcast. We don't get very many, so if you ask a question, there's a good shot you'll get on the podcast. Our next podcast, by the way, for those of you wondering, will be next Wednesday, hopefully, day before Cerberus comes out, just so hopefully I have time to grind my life away at Cerberus. But one of the really cool questions that definitely relevant to you, Joey, and it is from one of my viewers, Kami, at AlakineRS. What is your relationship to efficient skilling and EHP? And to broaden that a little bit, do you care? Is that your goal, kind of thing? For me, I know it's very simple. I do it when I want to, and I don't when I don't.
In the earlier days of my main account, I definitely was real into the efficient skilling, and pretty much all the skilling I've done has been as efficient as possible. I did at least care a lot about EHP, and then that interest kind of dwindled a little bit as my interest kind of changed. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was pretty involved with the skilling community, the efficient skilling community, like Hexus and Solus and all those different higher up clans. I'm friends with a lot of those people too, and I'm still kind of, I don't really care too much about EHP anymore, not as much as I used to. But I did go for like my prayer 30-hour record. I think I'm still like 5th for the daily record with like 11.5 mil XP. 5th for week and month as well, and a whole bunch of others. But yeah, I do like setting records. It's so hard for me to skill like that anymore. Yeah.
You're competing against, I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of RS players. You're competing against the top no-life motherfucker try-hard assholes.
Yeah, it's not so much as like I could keep up with them in shorter bursts, but with
it's impressive what they can do.
Yeah, with the DMing I have going on, I have my responsibilities with work. I am a homeowner. I have responsibilities around my house. Like
Joey's a fucking actual big deal, unlike the rest of us, and has responsibilities. Damn it.
So I would love to be playing like I used to, but I just can't seem to find the time. And now it used to be 8 to 10 hours a day. Now it's maybe 4 to 6 hours a day, which is still decent, but not as much as it used to be. On the weekends, it definitely is upped a bit, but weekdays are pretty much occupado.
It's worth mentioning that if you are a top-ranked RuneScape player, you probably aren't doing anything else with your life but RuneScape. It's not really possible to do both.
There are some who do. Like I know Randalicious has a job and he plays sports, and Daubs, who I'm friends with, also has a job. And
he also has people like paying for his skilling.
Right.
Oh shit.
Yeah, Randalicious. I don't know anything about that. No comments. But there are people who can manage to balance both. But I can't. I have too many things to do.
Yep. And one more. Just real quickly. How did you start playing D&D? This is from, of course, Affleck, who has asked us questions every week. So if you don't want Affleck to ask a question again, submit your questions. #ConnectionLostPodcast on Twitter. Do it. But how'd you get into D&D in the first place, Joey?
Years ago, my first campaign was a Pathfinder campaign with some buddies that I met from the Black Kraken stream.
And I... not actually that long ago.
No. It was maybe about 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean that's for the record, I consider that not that long ago. I didn't think about it, but I kind of expected that answer to be like, oh, I've been playing since I was like, I don't know.
It was something
with
I was
my
always,
parents or something. I don't know.
It was something I was always super interested in, but never had the group to actually play with. And then the more I started playing it, the more I realized I fucking love this. Role playing is fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun.
It's
If you've never it's a shame because everyone every once in a while gets involved in some sort of role playing, whether you know it or not. Usually it's in the form of like you're playing a game with somebody and you just pretend to do something outside of that. Like you're playing Trouble in Terrace Town is a great place for it. It happens every now and then when you're just hanging out with people and you pretend, to put it in layman's terms, you pretend to be someone you're not. But it's a lot of fun. And until you realize that it can be structured, it's kind of hard to figure out like, oh, I can go do this constantly for like a long time at like long periods of time. That's crazy.
Yeah. One thing about that campaign, it kind of my interest kind of waned in it after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then I eventually went back to it. The name of the campaign was We're the Good Guys, and I was like, all right, it's been like a year since I kind of left the group for other reasons, and let's go and check on the campaign, see what's going on. So I joined the game because I'm still a part of it. And the scene I see is them fighting a giant Baylor, and I'm like right on like the Baylor's face, dead.
Oh God!
Like that's the view I see. My character's name was Brutalitops. So I'll take a Ghiazzo of this screen here. But yeah, that was pretty tragic to see. Like
you were like, no.
At that point, they were playing my character for me, so I know they were like, we can just suicide him and send him right there. And I was like,
that's so sad.
Man.
That's so sad.
Yeah, but that was a lot of fun, and then I got into DMing, and I was playing in a campaign, which I really want to find another one to play in. I was DMing for the two and playing in a third. My buddy Seven Toes was hosting, but he had to stop his campaign for life reasons. So I was kind of upset. Jorgen, my Goliath bard opera singer.
Yeah, that's barbarian. So sad. You had that so planned out and like so hyped, and then.
But yeah, that's something I'm looking for is another campaign to join.
Yeah, you got him. I mean, you got him ready to go. Like, why trash him? Just
backstory, songs written. Like, man.
But yeah, that's it's what's it like? Just out of curiosity, for leaving a campaign, that's got to be. I mean, obviously people get attached to characters. Like, I can't imagine if, you watch the voice actors on Critical Role, if fucking Trinket is in danger, Laura starts freaking out.
Oh, yeah.
And you lose the lines between her role playing and not get a little blurry. It's a little hard to, is she actually super worried? Is Vex worried? You don't really know. But I imagine leaving a campaign is kind of, especially if you've spent a long time with your characters, a little, I mean, you lose something, certainly.
You get invested in those characters, and they've been playing for close to 3 years. And at that point, you get attached to your character. And like to have it die, like none of you guys in your campaign have really gotten to that point where you're attached to your character where if they die,
I'd be devastated. I'd tell you right now already. I would be devastated.
You and Smork probably are, but no one has really developed that emotional attachment where it's just like, oh, the character died, that sucks. Like they're actually upset. But
yeah,
there's the other campaign. If they were one of them were to die, they would be devastated.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Which, honestly, like, this is terrible of me to say, but I think down the road on Critical Role, I think Mercer needs to find a way to create drama.
Oh yeah,
have
he
somebody
will.
die.
Or eventually, I feel like how that would play out is kind of like how Pike had to go somewhere to film.
Yeah,
show.
like something's
going to come up in someone's life where they're like, "I'm sorry."
That was so horrible to watch because like all of a sudden I like look over at Laura and she's like crying and I'm like, "Wait a second, what is going on here?"
Yeah,
it's like she's just going away for a little bit. It's gonna be fine.
If we get reunited with Pike, man, it's gonna be so great. Oh.
And Pike will be like a little shrimpy, and she'll be like, "Wow, you guys are so much stronger." But before we ramble on for any longer, Joey has obligations, and we have been going for quite a while. So with that, folks, that is going to be it for another lovely edition of Connection Lost. As always, all relevant links are in the description. If you're here on SoundCloud, check the description. YouTube, wherever you are, Twitch highlights. Be sure to check us out on SoundCloud. We will be on iTunes soon. I didn't even mention that at the start of the podcast, but that's super exciting if iTunes accepts the podcast, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome.
That's super exciting. We could be on iTunes. It'll be free on iTunes, so you can get it on your mobile devices, all whatever, if you want to have it stored away to listen to sometime, whenever that may be. That'll be an option soon. And of course, we'll keep expanding to other platforms as we keep going. But any information about our lovely guest host, as always, thank you so much, Joey, for stepping in. You're a savior, because Keith and I couldn't get shit together, and of course,
oh, yeah, no problem. I hope to be like a monthly, once a month guest.
Yeah, we can. I mean, for God's sakes, we honestly should just make it that at this point. So, thank you so much, everybody, for watching and listening at home. Connection Lost. See you later. Woohoo!